inviting us over the threshold of once upon a time. Finding yourself at the portal, at the well, at the entrance to the cave where Trickster Crow lives. The smell of moss and the taste of honey in your mouth. Someone in the room is spinning and spinning, and the ancient ones sit at the fire. A soup of all the healing herbs and roots is being prepared for us. Snow is falling and bread is coming out of the oven. Someone is spinning. Someone is weaving. Weaving resistance. Weaving worlds. And in this world, this ancient remembered world, back before you remember, back then, there was a world, there is a world where the people kept the cycles of the life-death-life cycle. They told the stories of the ripening, of the harvest, and of the body, and of the belly, and of the child, to death and passing. And in this time, this ancient time that is also a present time and a future time, there was a boy born named Robbie, and this one knew. This one knew that his name was not Robbie, but Mariana. This one knew that within his heart, his body, his being, there was a girl child within. And Robbie was drawn to learn to weave and to spin and to embroider. Oh, especially embroider. And he sat in the women's circle, quietly embroidering, and oh, the beauty. It was almost as if the flowers were flowing in the breeze and the animals in the embroidery were moving. So deft and skilled and full of longing was this one's embroidery. And as he grew and did not take up the elder flute of the shepherds, and did not take on the roles of the male-bodied ones, but sat there, listening to the stories of birthing, listening to the stories of bleeding, listening to the stories of healing, this one was mocked or ignored. And inside Robbie's breast grew such a longing. And when he was 16, and all of his sisters and cousins and the other people, the other children of his age who were no longer children had begun to bleed, Robbie sat weeping. Weeping at the wellspring, the source, the portal to Holda's world, to Frau Holda, the one who lives below this world, at the elder tree, this water, the source of where the spirits of life would emerge and the spirits at death would return. And Robbie took a pin and knife and pricked and cut the fingers so that blood, his blood, would still pour forth from him into the water. And full of longing and despair and hopelessness and belief and beauty, for he knew he must talk to Holda. He knew the only one who could help him was Holda, He went leaping into the well and down, down, down into the other world, the always summer world, the harvest world, and laid there on the grass, opening his eyes, hearing crow, ha, 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 and hearing the river flow, and smelling the smell of ripe apples on the breeze. He began to walk, following the path of the river. Listening to the song of the river, he walked. Da, 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 until he heard the sound of someone else calling, the apples calling, "Please, we're so heavy, please harvest us." The trees called, and he entered a wild orchard where every apple was a never-before-seen kind of apple, and he began to pick them and put them into the baskets that were there. And while he picked the apples, something moved in his breast and his heart, and he was called forth in a kind of wild ecstasy. And he walked on along the river until he could smell the smell of bread baking, and he could hear the sound of the loaves in the oven. "Help us! Take us out! We're baked! We'll burn!" And he took out the loaves of the bread, and while he did it, he could feel in his center of his body a pulling and a turning and a moaning and a shifting. Da 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 da. And he walked on along the river, following the voice of the river until he saw the house on the hillside of Holda. And he knocked on the door. And this goddess of winter and weather, with silver long hair and teeth like tusks and a tail under her skirt, looked in his eyes and said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Mariana." And she welcomed him in. And they ate together the bread and the apples, and she said to him, "Will you stay here for 1 year? Will you stay here and work for me? Will you take my duvets and shake them so that it snows in your world? Will you bake the bread so that the women's bellies swell with children? Will you pluck the apples so that the ripening of sexuality and bodies might happen in all the beings in your world? And will you embroider with such skill that the flowers bloom in the meadows?" "Yes," said Mariana, "I will." And Holda brought him a skirt and brought him an embroidered shirt. And Mariana wore the clothing that he had so longed for of the women of his people, and lived there for 1 year, embroidering, baking, shaking, harvesting. And at the end of the year, Mariana started to feel a kind of homesick, and dream of home, and long for that old place, which was no longer the old life. And when Mariana told Holda that he wanted to go home, she came and she brought him an embroidered belt that was only worn by women who bled. And she wound this belt around his middle, around his center. And in that moment, she became a woman with a womb. And she was sent back to her people. And she became a healer and a wisdom keeper. And she was the one who wove and embroidered the shirts with such skill that it was as if the flowers bloomed upon the shirts and the animals themselves moved. Mariana, finally, in her true form, in her true home.